Hello everyone, I'm Nima and welcome to my YouTube channel. In this video, we're going to talk about maple syrup. Not a lot of people know what exactly maple syrup is. They don't know how it's made, where it comes from, how can we use it, best way to keep and store it, and a lot more. So without wasting time, let's get into it. What is maple syrup? So it's basically a sweet liquid made from the sap of maple tree. Sap is basically the sugar water that goes up and down in the maple tree to distribute nutrients to different parts of the tree. Canada is basically very famous for their maple syrup, and they even have the maple leaf on their flag. Like that leaf on the flag of Canada is the maple leaf. And Canada is the largest producer of the maple syrup around the whole world. It produces approximately 65 to 70% of the whole world's maple syrup. And maple syrup was first made in North America about 450 years ago. Whenever we hear the term maple syrup, we automatically think of pancakes and waffles. And there is nothing wrong with that. But after watching this video, you will understand how much more you can do with maple syrup, in how many different ways you can use and utilize it in cooking. How is maple syrup made? So the process of making maple syrup happens during early spring each year, between February and April every year. And this always depends on the weather. It could be like a week earlier, a week later, it doesn't matter. It depends on the weather because it should be above freezing during daytime and below freezing during nighttime. And at the beginning of the video, I said that maple syrup comes from the sap of maple tree. And sap is basically the sugar water that goes up and down inside the tree to distribute nutrients. In order to take the sap out of the tree, you would tap the tree. The process of tapping is basically when you drill a hole on the tree, and then some of the sap, which is already going up and down in the tree very slowly, some of the sap will basically just come out from that little hole that you made. And if you're tapping, let's say, I don't know, like 5 to 10 trees, you can just place a bucket underneath that hole that you made, and then some of the sap will just drip down the bucket. But for large maple farms, they would connect a very long tube through every single tree, and then they would connect them to each other through that little hole that they made on the tree, and they would gather all the sap in one place. At this point, they just have the sap. And sap is just like water because it's only 2% sugar and 98% water by volume. So if you just taste it, it basically tastes like water with like slightly sweet water, you know? So at this point, they would boil the sap. They would boil the sap a lot until it reaches the sugar content that they're looking for and the consistency as well. As you could imagine by now, making maple syrup is not an easy thing to do, and the reduction part, the boiling part is very long because it takes about 40 to 45 gallons of sap in order to have only 1 gallon of maple syrup. Like you have to reduce 40 to 45 gallons in order to get only 1 gallon of maple syrup, and that's a lot of time. And you might be wondering, how long can you tap the trees? Like if you tap it this year, can you also tap it next year as well? Well, the answer is yes. As long as the tree is growing and the tree is healthy, there is nothing wrong with tapping it every year because the tree is growing, it has already its nutrients, and then you're basically just taking out some of the sap in the tree. That's totally fine. Alright, if you think you've learned something watching this video so far, please hit that like button down below so YouTube will show this video to more people who are interested to learn about maple syrup. Thank you. How to use maple syrup? Well, as I said at the beginning of the video, you can use maple syrup in a lot of different ways instead of just pouring it on top of pancakes and waffles. Maple syrup can be used on inside salad dressings. You can just drizzle it on top of yogurt. You can drizzle it on top of ice cream, cakes. You can add it to mixed drinks, cocktails, mocktails. You can add it to your barbecue sauce, and basically whenever you want to add sweetness to something, you can use maple syrup. But be careful because maybe your recipe calls for, I don't know, 1 tablespoon of sugar, but just be careful with the amount of maple syrup you're adding to the recipe. Always add a little bit at a time and then taste it, see how it is. If you need more, add a little bit more. If you go to the supermarket and you see maple syrups, you'll see that there are different grades for maple syrup. And the best grade for maple syrup is basically the lightest color. And when the color of maple syrup is light, that means it doesn't have a very like pungent flavor to it. You know, the flavor is mild, it's round, and it's pretty nice. It can be used in like drizzling something, just like have a little dip of maple syrup next to your breakfast. That is good, like using it like that, you know. But if you see a dark maple syrup, like the color of it is a lot darker than lighter versions of maple syrup, that means it has a very stronger flavor. Why? Because they reduced it a little bit more, so more water is evaporated, and the color of it is a little richer than the light version of it. What is the best way to keep and store maple syrup? Well, after you open the jar, the bottle, the container, whatever, after you open it, it should be stored in the fridge. And if so, you can keep it up to a year without losing its quality and flavor. Alright everyone, this is the end of the video. Thank you for watching. I hope you learned something watching this video. If you have any questions, any comments, any requests, anything, just write a comment down below and I'll definitely read it. If you think this video was helpful, please give it a thumbs up so YouTube will show this video to more people who are interested to learn about maple syrup. Thank you, and until the next video, I will see you all later. Thank you.